There you go.
Well, you got a little animal in there.
Oh, fuck.
I'm gonna get you a
Don't worry,
spoon or
I've
something.
got protein in mine. No. How the fuck did that...
So Gabriel,
Hi.
it's so great to see you and to talk to you in person. We met remotely before in an Agile Coaching bootcamp, actually, where I've had the pleasure of being trained by you in facilitation and coaching. And now we are on the evening before the AccsoCon, where you're gonna hold a workshop tomorrow with 250 people. I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel fine. I'm sorry for them. It's the honest answer. I feel great. No, it's a great honor to be here. And yeah, who knew that actually you coming on one of the courses that I was on with my co-host Bar, that this day would actually happen. So it's great, and I'm very honored to be part of it.
Amazing. You want to give us an update on what you're doing right now? Yeah,
sure. So basically, I'm an Agile coach, and for you know what an Agile coach is because you went on the course. But for those of you that don't know what an Agile coach is, or maybe want sort of like a recollection, essentially. Coaching, when you think of coaches, you think of like an American coach where they're normally a semi-attractive, mature person. I am mature, but not semi-attractive. But has a nice office with an orchid, gets paid lots of money, and just does coaching, right? And when we talk about professional coaching, sometimes we think about almost like a therapist, right? But with Agile coaching, we're talking about training, mentoring, facilitating, coaching as well, using coaching techniques, as well as acting as a consultant and so many different other things, especially in an organizational context. And that's really what I'm focusing on right now, is getting really deeper into Agile coaching and that profession as a whole, because I think it's one that's really misunderstood, especially in an organizational setting.
Before we dig a little deeper into the coaching stuff, I know there's a lot of buzz around terms like coaching, Agile coaching, mentoring, training, and could you specify those different tasks and techniques a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So training, I think, is one that people know off by heart, right? Yeah. It's an exchange of information, normally one way, right? The way that I train and many of my other colleagues train is the way that we try and make it an exchange of information. So I give you some information, you then use that information and try and understand how you can sort of interpretate it yourself and use it and practice it to feel competent with it and confident with it. So that's training. Mentoring, again, people think mentoring is like a mentor finds someone and just basically says, do this and be a mini-me. When actually mentoring is more about sort of understanding what the other person may need and getting clear on what it is that they actually want, and then supporting them to find the way forward, right? Coaching, again, people get that misunderstood, thinking coaching is just a one-way flow of information, i.e., tell me what you want or need, and I will tell you the answer. That's not coaching. Sometimes that's abuse, right? But coaching is really about asking open-ended questions and getting really deep on a mutual understanding of what the actual situation is, and then helping that person find their way, right? And you, as a coach, are providing them a framework in which for them to find their journey into a solution that makes sense for themselves, right? So you're probing, you're being the mirror, you are reflecting back, you are mentioning about maybe your observations, you are kind of giving them a framework for them to do the mental agility and the mental work to themselves. Facilitation is about guiding a session. So again, it's about being a framework. It's about maybe asking some coaching questions. It might be a little bit about teaching them about how the format's going to be, right? And it's essentially guiding people to kind of come up with an outcome at the end. So I've mentioned coaching, I've mentioned mentoring, consulting as well. So sometimes people want you to come up with an answer. And I would say that is the easiest trap for many Agile coaches to fall into, where they want to give an answer straight away. But the way that I like to teach and train Agile coaching is that actually you should be a coach, facilitator, mentor, and all the other hats first before you are a consultant.
Yes.
So you really fully understand what it is that they're asking you to consult on, because it's like almost being a patient going into a doctor and self-diagnose, right? You may think you know the answer, but the doctor may have a different conclusion by the questions that they ask, right? So if you are going to consult, ask those questions, dig deeper, make sure you really fully understand the lay of the land and the context before you give an answer. And there are many other things, right, as an Agile coach when we're working in an organization, because we go into messy, dysfunctional places that have a lot of history, a lot of context, a lot of politics that may have happened way before us. And so we need all those techniques to really understand where we're operating in, where the people are, what are their situations, what are their needs. And actually, essentially, the most important thing is how can we add value?
What is this currently one topic that is most important to you in one or more of these roles you just described?
So I think it's not really one topic, it's a theme. And that current theme is about collaborative empowerment. Because the workplace is a place that we spend the majority of our lives. For many of us, we'll be working in a place for 8 hours or more if we're really unlucky, right? Or if we are lucky, if you enjoy your job. And to feel empowered to have some kind of input in the environment in which you work in, I personally feel, and I know that many people that I speak to, that's quite an important thing of having some kind of influence on how they spend their time for the majority of their lives. And many of us are working not through choice, through necessity, if I can get the words out. And so I feel like it's important for us to have some kind of input in something that we have to do, that we need to do to survive, and not feel a victim of our circumstance or the victim of the fact that we need to work.
Which connects to the idea of self-efficacy, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's about voting for yourself, it's about staying true to yourself, it's about having some kind of input, no matter how small, right? And I think I mentioned to you before about maybe having a choice about whether we have tea, coffee, or Diet Coke, right? If we have 45 minutes for lunch. If, for instance, I have a choice on, I don't know, what pens I use for a certain task. As small as they are, I feel like it's important to recognize that we're all adults, right? That we are able to make the right choice, that I think the majority of the time that we don't have malicious intent, and actually we want to do a good job.
Definitely.
And so to feel empowered that we can make choices on how I can do a task better. And if you give me the information or the challenge that you've got, that maybe, you know, I have good intentions that I want to help you. So let me have a tiny bit of freedom to deliver something in a better way, perhaps sometimes, because I can see things from a different point of view.
Definitely, and it's about activating people and finding the resources these people already have within themselves, right?
Yeah.
So in all this work, there's kind of a range between, when it comes to activating people, between being very soft and supportive on the one hand, and on the other hand, very provocative.
Yeah.
I experienced both from you in the training in a positive way. How do you deal with that range? So how do you choose which approach to use?
Yeah, good question. I think it always comes down to intention, right? What is your intention in that situation? And do you feel that the people that you are operating or working with or collaborating with or communicating with understand your intention, right? And I think in the training course, I hope most people feel that my intention is pure, it's positive, it's supportive, that actually I want to provoke thought, and I want to provoke a conversation, and so they take it in that way. I would say in a workplace you need to be really careful because it might not land that way. But I think in the safe environment of the training, which I hope that the training is a safe environment, that people see it as a way of exploring thought. Because Agile coaching, more than anything, is about thought leadership within yourself, but also within an organization, and also exploring about what's the intent behind certain things that explain certain actions and the way things are, to then understand how we can move the needle forward in improving different ways of working. Because agility sometimes lives and dies by mindsets, by people's thoughts, by people's attitudes, by people's intentions on holding on to processes that no longer work for them because they need certain things. And so kind of exploring that and provoking that is essentially an Agile Coach's, I would say, initiative to really explore that within their environment or their organization.
Definitely, because it's a very personal, I don't know if preference is the right word, because preference suggests that it's something you choose. But I personally know that if I'm approached by a coach, mentor, trainer, whatever, in a more provocative way, I feel challenged and I feel taken seriously. Other people need the more softer, more understandable approach. So it's a fine line.
It's a fine line, and I would say it's a tool. Right. Like everything else with which you will learn on the Agile Coaching course if you come on it, right? That all of it are tools, they are techniques, and it's more about the intention of what it is that you're hoping to get, right? You have lots of tools and techniques if your intention is for a team to build together, to break the ice. If your intention is for the team to come to a consensus, if your intention is for a team to retrospect, right, and reflect on the things that have happened before. There are so many tools and techniques in which you can use, but it's all about, for you as a coach or for you as a facilitator or a mentor, as a trainer, what's your intention? What's your goal? What's your vision? What are you hoping for the people that you are serving and working with for them to get?
I think in the way you're explaining this, it is so understandable how process-oriented these roles are, and how important it is. This is something I learned in your course as well, how important it is to really distinguish between roles that are content-focused and process-focused, and to not mix and match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really clear for people to understand which hat you've got on. Because for all our sins as Agile coaches, we wear lots of different hats.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God. And I think, like, unlike other professions where it's really clear cut who you are and what you do, you know, if you're a teacher in a school, you're a teacher in a school. If you're a nurse, you're a nurse. If you're a professional coach, you're a professional coach. For us, we mix all three things and don't get paid half as much. So I think it's really important that people understand what hat you're wearing, but also it's really clear for you to understand what service that you're providing, and where your hat lies and where your stance lies, so you can be really clear on the value that you're delivering, right? So if you are teaching, you teach, and you ensure that you have teaching outcomes and things that the students must hone or really refine by the time the teaching session ends. And if you're going to coach, you coach, and you stay in a neutral stance. And I think it's really important that you stay in those things so people get the value out of what you're actually delivering, as opposed to mixing and matching and people go away confused and go, actually, I thought you were teaching me, but now you're asking me open-ended questions, and now I'm not sure if I've got homework or whether you want me to answer the questions. Like, what is it that you want from me?
So if I'm a client who knows well what I need, if I want to learn, if I want to grow and have a coach or mentor by my side, or have sessions that need to be supported by a facilitator, that's pretty easy, because then I know which hat to put on, right? But how do you approach clients that don't know that? And that's pretty regularly the case, right?
So my approach would still be the same, right? I would still ask lots of different open-ended questions to get on the same page of, oh, okay, you're talking about an Agile coach. what does an Agile coach mean to you? So we're on the same page if we've got the same understanding, right? The same way as you would come to me as a decorator and say, I want a blue room, I, as a decorator, maybe with my mindset would go, okay, well, show me what kind of blue you're talking about. Because maybe I'm talking about a dark blue, you're talking about a baby blue. So I want to get on the same page of what kind of blue we're talking about first. So I'd still go about it the same approach of asking open-ended questions to then understand what is it that you need, what is it that you think you're okay with, what are you hoping to get, what is the outcome, and how do you see me supporting you in that, right? So I would ask those open-ended questions, and then with my full understanding of either being on the same page or not being on the same page or somewhere in the middle, then work out actually how I can support you, and come up with a plan that we co-create together of moving the needle forward.
I think this idea is so important, and it can translate into other areas as well. As we were talking about different shades of blue, right? I was thinking about a business analyst or requirements engineer trying to specify something where it's really important to find exactly the right shade of blue everyone is talking about. And not just blue or, well, a lighter blue or a darker blue. Precise communication.
Absolutely. And I think in a good way and also in a bad way, right? Sometimes we take information very first hand, right? So you hear blue, everyone goes, yeah, I know what blue is. Right, he talked about blue, yeah, I got that blue, don't worry, I understand. But actually, without going deeper and actually, are we sure what kind of blue we mean? We miss so many different things. And so when the outcome is, I don't know, a car or a cake or a room that's painted blue and then people are disappointed, and we're shocked because blue's blue, but actually we didn't have that follow-up conversation of actually what type of blue it was, right, to kind of manage those expectations. And I think there is a certain confidence sometimes that we've understood things the first time round and not enough time actually just ensuring that we're on the same page. That could save organizations a lot of money. And it sounds so simple, but we don't have those conversations, right? We don't have those conversations of what does a particular issue mean, or what does a delay mean, or what does a hindrance mean, or what does success mean, or what does revenue mean, or what does profit mean? It's simply a case of profit is profit. Okay, well, how much profit? Are we talking about £1 million? Are we talking about £1? Are we talking about £50,000? Like, what kind of profit? Okay, we want the company to be successful. That's great, but what kind of success are we talking about? Very often we don't talk about those things and get really clear on them because we all assume we know what those things mean, and those things could mean different things to so many different people.
I sense a tendency to answer questions quickly, no matter the question, right? Just an impulse. Okay, there's a question, so information is needed, obviously. So okay, let's put that information then there and close the box, and you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in many organizations and for many individuals, there's a need to be seen as competent, and asking questions may seem like you are not competent enough, or you're not confident enough in your role, when actually you are more competent when you actually get really clear on what those things are, right? And I think there's a lot of guesswork, there's a lot of fudging, and fudging is like East London slang of just basically winging it, faking it till you're making it. So there's a lot of that, or not looking like you haven't really fully understood, where I think sometimes we need to take the time to ask those questions to fully understand and slow down sometimes to get really clear, because maybe we've identified risks, we've identified issues, we've identified that type of blue that person wants only comes from India, and there's a shortage and they won't have it for 2 months. There's so many things that we can save a lot of time with if we get really clear on those things.
Well, that's one idea that I try to communicate to clients, or make them aware of different types of questions.
Yeah.
Because that's something that was really eye-opening to me, to understand that there are questions that aim to gather information, and then there are questions that aim to make people reflect on something, and that's something very different. And we first need to reflect in order to get a common understanding, for example, on the exact precise shade of blue we mean, and not a question of information gathering.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes as well, those questions and asking the exact shade of blue, maybe the person hasn't thought about it themselves.
Yes, right.
Right. They haven't thought about it themselves. They haven't thought about actually what shade of blue do I want. I knew I wanted blue, but now you've asked me a question. I need to go and think about it.
Probably they're wearing that shade of blue for 30 years every day, so they can see it even more.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, you know, and I know for myself because my flat is completely grey, and I knew I wanted the grey flat because I wear a lot of grey, but when it came to picking the specific shade of grey, that took me 4 years. that took me so long, and I know we're talking about colours, and colours seem so so superficial, right? We can swap that color for artificial intelligence. AI does a lot of things, right? Everybody wants to use AI. What exactly do you want AI to do for you?
Exactly.
Right, and getting really clear on that. You want AI. You want to be ahead of the curve. You want to utilize this technology. What exactly do you want it to do for you, and getting really clear on that, you know? And that's a mindful in itself.
Definitely. I mean, probably I want AI to find out what I can use AI for.
Right.
Right? And that kind of leads back to coaching, because that's what coaching does. Most people don't know what they really want or what they really need in a certain situations, and coaching with the open-ended questions can help you figure out for yourself what it is that you need in that situation to solve a problem.
Yeah, or really figure out what you don't want.
Or that. Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe get really clear on all the things you don't want, so you're really clear on the things that you do want, to then make a priority on that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So to slowly wrap it up, we both like questions.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite one?
I do, actually.
Yeah, you do?
I do. I like to ask clients a lot of time, what question were you expecting me to ask you that I haven't asked you?
That's a very good one.
Right. And that always helps me understand what they were expecting from me. Maybe there's a question that people ask all the time that I haven't asked, or maybe there's a particular area. So when they come up with questions that they were expecting me to ask them and I haven't asked them that, then I get them to answer it. So, okay, you're expecting me to ask that question, what's the answer? So that's one question that I like to use. Or I like to ask something quite simple as, what's next for you? You know, or what were you hoping to come out from this conversation? Those are close second and third.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gabriel.
No, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.